Hi, I'm Alina, and this is the story of how I learned that some people believe they're the sole architects of success, dismissing anyone who doesn't fit their narrow idea of a leader. For years, I was the unseen force behind a groundbreaking scientific research project, quietly developing the algorithms that made our discoveries possible, only to have my charismatic lead researcher, Dr. Aris Thorne, steal all the credit and try to push me out. This is the story of how I proved that true genius isn't always found in the spotlight. I still remember the excitement of joining the cognitive synthesis project at the university. I was a brilliant but introverted data scientist, fascinated by the intersection of neuroscience and artificial intelligence. My work focused on developing complex algorithms to model human thought processes, a crucial step toward understanding neurological diseases. Dr. Aris Thorne, the principal investigator, was a renowned neuroscientist, known for his captivating lectures and ability to secure massive grants. He was a visionary, always speaking eloquently about the future of brain research. "Alina, your mind is truly exceptional," he told me during my recruitment. "Your algorithms are the key to unlocking the mysteries of the brain. Together, we'll revolutionize medicine." Naively, I believed him. I poured my life into the project, working tirelessly in the lab. The early days were a blur of complex coding and late-night debugging sessions. I built the foundational AI models, developed the neural network architectures, and wrote the countless lines of code that processed vast amounts of neuroimaging data. Dr. Thorne, meanwhile, was the public face, effortlessly charming benefactors. At research symposiums and publishing groundbreaking papers that featured his name prominently. He was a master at networking, always at the right place, meeting the right scientific luminaries. My lab colleague, Dr. Anya Sharma, a kind and observant geneticist, often gave me subtle warnings. "Aris is very good at what he does, Alina," she'd remarked, a slight pause in her voice. "But always ensure your contributions are acknowledged, dear." I admired Dr. Thorne's ability to draw attention and funding to our work and thought Dr. Sharma was just being overly cautious. The cognitive synthesis project soared to international recognition. Within 3 years, our AI model was accurately predicting disease progression, identifying new biomarkers, and even suggesting novel therapeutic targets. Our findings were published in top-tier journals, our research budget quadrupled, and our lab became a hub for visiting scientists. Dr. Thorne, ever the showman, reveled in the spotlight. He was constantly giving TED Talks, featured in prestigious science magazines, and receiving coveted awards. "This is a testament to collaborative innovation," he'd always say in interviews, conveniently glossing over the fact that he barely understood the intricate algorithms I had personally designed and implemented. I, on the other hand, was content to let the groundbreaking results of my algorithms speak for themselves. I believed that true scientific advancement was its own reward. The first hint of trouble came subtly. My name began to appear lower in the author lists of our joint publications, sometimes relegated to footnotes or even acknowledgments. Then came the unexplained restrictions on my access to certain core datasets and the proprietary code repositories. When I questioned Dr. Thorne, he'd dismiss it with a casual wave of his hand. "Just an administrative oversight, Alina. Nothing for you to worry about. We're expanding, you know." He always had a plausible excuse, a charming, professorial smile, and a reminder of our overall success. And I, wanting to believe the best in my esteemed mentor, pushed the nagging doubts aside. After all, he was the lead, and I trusted him to handle the politics, leaving me free to focus on the science. 4 years into the cognitive synthesis project's success, Dr. Thorne announced a major press conference, unveiling our latest discovery. A revolutionary diagnostic tool for early Alzheimer's detection, entirely powered by our AI. This discovery was poised to earn the university billions and change millions of lives. Dr. Thorne had orchestrated it, emphasizing its importance for securing even larger government grants. I arrived early, feeling a profound sense of foreboding. Dr. Thorne and his new departmental head, Dr. Elias Vance, a stern, unyielding administrator, were already there, looking unusually smug, their faces exuding an almost predatory excitement. As the auditorium filled with top journalists, university deans, and medical luminaries, Dr. Thorne stepped onto the stage, exuding his usual air of intellectual authority. "Good morning, distinguished guests and members of the press," he began, his voice resonating with practiced gravitas. "The Cognitive Synthesis Project stands on the cusp of a medical revolution. And to lead us into this new era of global impact, I am thrilled to announce a significant restructuring of our research leadership." My heart pounded. Restructuring? What was he talking about? "Effective immediately," Dr. Thorne continued, his eyes sweeping over the camera lenses, intentionally avoiding mine. "Dr. Vance, my invaluable collaborator and administrative genius, will be taking on the newly created role of Director of Applied Research. This move will provide the streamlined, decisive leadership that a project of our scale and commercial potential truly demands." A cold dread washed over me. This wasn't just about restructuring, this was about consolidating their control and pushing me out. "For too long," Dr. Thorne added, his voice dripping with false empathy, "our progress has been hampered by, shall we say, a certain overemphasis on theoretical technical development. While Alina has been diligent in her coding, her focus has remained too narrowly on the algorithms. To truly translate this research into widely accessible medical solutions, we need a leader with a broader vision, someone who understands large-scale clinical trials, commercialization, and the political landscape of scientific funding." The journalists exchanged confused glances, their pens poised. I sat there, stunned, as Dr. Thorne continued his thinly veiled character assassination. "Some people," he said, now looking directly at me, a condescending smirk playing on his lips, "are simply better suited for the computational grunt work, for back-end support. Alina's talent lies in her programming, not in groundbreaking scientific leadership. Her rigid adherence to data purity and her lack of practical market understanding have become a liability. It's time for her to gracefully step aside from any significant leadership roles within the project." The room was silent, the air thick with unspoken judgment. Every eye was on me, waiting for my reaction. I could feel the pity, the schadenfreude, the silent condemnation. Everything I had built, every line of code I had perfected, every ounce of intellectual passion I had poured into this project, was being stripped away in front of everyone I knew. My mind raced, a whirlwind of anger and disbelief. Dr. Thorne had orchestrated this, meticulously, cruelly. The disappearing name from papers, the restricted access, Dr. Vance's sudden rise, it all clicked into place. They had been systematically isolating me, preparing for this very public dismissal. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the polished floor, the sound echoing through the auditorium like a gunshot. Everyone expected a scene, tears, an outburst, maybe even a desperate plea. Instead, I simply walked to the podium, picked up the Innovation in Neuroscience Award Dr. Thorne had been presented with moments before, and calmly placed it face down on the floor at his feet. "Remember where true innovation comes from, Dr. Thorne," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil raging inside me. "Because clearly, you've forgotten." Then, without another word, I turned and walked out, leaving behind the stunned silence and the lingering questions in the once reverent hall. That night, as I sat in my small apartment, surrounded by scattered research papers and the glowing screen of my personal server, I made a decision. Dr. Thorne thought he had one, but he had forgotten one crucial detail, something that would turn his moment of triumph into the biggest mistake of his arrogant career. As I powered up my laptop and began typing, a small, grim smile played on my lips. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. After all, there's more than one way to conduct groundbreaking research, and I had learned more in years of direct algorithmic development than Dr. Thorne had learned in all his years of self-promotion and credit stealing. The next morning would bring changes that none of them saw coming, changes that would make them realize exactly how truly indispensable fundamental intelligence and integrity really were. The next morning dawned bright and clear. I arrived at the Cognitive Synthesis Project lab early, before anyone else, and waited. Precisely at 9 a.m., Dr. Thorne strode through the entrance with Dr. Vance by his side, both wearing triumphant smiles that were about to be wiped from their faces. "Alina?" Dr. Thorne's voice held a mix of surprise and annoyance. "What are you doing here? I thought after last night you'd have the dignity to stay home." I smiled, remembering the detailed package I had sent at 3 a.m. to the university's Ethics Committee, the National Institutes of Health, NIH, Grant Oversight Board, and every major science publication that had ever featured Dr. Thorne. "Just wrapping up some loose ends, Dr. Thorne, dear," I said sweetly. "But since you're here, we should probably talk about the project's future." "There's nothing to discuss," Dr. Thorne interjected, his voice firm. "Dr. Vance and I are in charge now. The university has already approved it." "Ah, yes, the university," I said, pulling out my tablet. "Let's talk about that. You see, while you were busy taking credit and restricting access, I was actually building an ironclad case. And there are a few things you both seem to have forgotten." I pulled up a document on the lab's main screen, connected to the large research monitor. "First, let me remind you that the intellectual property for the core AI algorithms that process all neuroimaging data and generate our diagnostic insights, they are not owned by the Cognitive Synthesis Project or the university. They're owned by Alina's Neuroanalytics LLC, a company I quietly established 3 years ago. The project only has a licensing agreement, which expires." I checked my watch, "about 10 minutes ago, along with all the access protocols to the foundational code and the vast, proprietary datasets." The color drained from both their faces. Dr. Vance's eyes widened in horror, and Dr. Thorne's usually confident posture seemed to sag. "That's impossible," Dr. Thorne whispered, his voice barely audible. "You would never have thought of that." "And that's not all," I continued, pulling up more documents. "Those discrepancies in the raw data logs, the altered authorship submissions to journals, and the testimonies from disgruntled junior researchers about being systematically sidelined? They weren't just isolated incidents, they were meticulously documented evidence of academic fraud and credit theft, complete with version histories and encrypted communications. And they were all submitted to the university's Ethics Committee and the NIH's Office of Research Integrity last night. Remember those administrative oversights and publication credits, Dr. Thorne? The ones you dismissed as junior researcher confusion? My lab colleague, Dr. Anya Sharma, whom you always considered too focused on genetics, has a very keen eye for scientific misconduct and a fierce commitment to academic honesty." Dr. Thorne collapsed onto a lab stool, his face slack with dawning realization. "The restricted access to data, the one you brushed off as security protocols?" "Yes, that one," I said. "It was just the beginning." Dr. Vance's face contorted with unadulterated panic. "You vindictive little, careful, Dr. Vance," I cut him off. "You might want to hear the rest before you finish that sentence. While you were busy announcing my supposedly graceful exit last night, I was ensuring that every major science publication and every major funding body had all the evidence they needed for today's breaking headlines. You see, scientific integrity, unlike your manufactured fame, cannot be fabricated. Last night, I ensured the academic world finally knew the truth about their visionary leader and his administrative genius." I pulled up my phone, showing dozens of notifications from prestigious journals and university statements already announcing investigations and retractions. "Would you like to know how many grant freezes are already being issued by the NIH and other funding bodies?" Or how many retraction notices for your groundbreaking papers are already being published? The room fell silent. Through the glass walls, we could see other lab members gathering, whispers spreading as they checked their phones, their faces a mixture of shock and profound disillusionment. Dr. Thorne's perfect composure cracked as he frantically checked his phone, only to see it flooded with calls from angry deans and disgraced colleagues. "You can't do this," he stammered, his voice trembling. "My career, my reputation." "Your career and reputation ceased to exist the moment you decided to steal intellectual property and humiliate someone who genuinely believed in scientific truth," I finished for him. "The one you thought you could just push aside because I preferred algorithms to accolades. That illusion of genius you built, it's crumbling right now." I stood up, smoothing my lab coat. "So, here are your options. Option 1, you are publicly denounced by the university, lose all your grants, and face a full scientific ethics investigation, ending your career in disgrace." Dr. Thorne's face was ashen. "And option 2, he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Option 2, you both resign, effective immediately, citing personal reasons related to unforeseen ethical conflicts. You cooperate fully with the Ethics Committee and the NIH investigation, providing comprehensive testimony about the entire scheme and everyone involved, in exchange for a slightly reduced ban from future grant applications. You lose your prestigious positions, your reputations will still be in tatters, but you might avoid criminal charges for fraud. Dr. Vance will also receive a similar plea bargain if he cooperates. And I, Alina, will publicly commend your courage in stepping down for the good of scientific progress." Dr. Vance's face had turned an interesting shade of green. "You planned this all along, didn't you? You've just been waiting for the right moment to expose us." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No, Dr. Vance. I spent years trying to be a diligent, honest researcher while you both took me for granted. I built this project on intellect and integrity, not on deceit, while you collected undeserved glory. I only planned this," I checked my watch again, "about 12 hours ago, after you called my dedication a liability in front of everyone we know. The university's security is outside right now, awaiting my signal. Time's running out. What's it going to be?" The next hour was a blur of paperwork, ethics committee members, and signed resignations. By noon, I sat alone in what was now a quiet, strangely empty lab, looking at the complex data visualizations on the main screen. The project, once tainted by stolen credit, was now truly ours again, science's. But the victory felt bittersweet. Trust shattered like dropped beakers. Dr. Sharma, my kind colleague, came to see me that evening, a weary but proud smile on her face. "Did it have to end this way, Alina?" she asked softly. "They gave me no choice, Dr. Sharma," I replied, my voice gentle but firm. "They would have continued to exploit the research and betray the scientific community without a second thought." She nodded slowly, understanding but somber. "What happens now?" I showed her the plans I had already drawn up, a complete restructuring of the cognitive synthesis project under new, collaborative leadership, with renewed focus on ethical research and transparent authorship. Now, we would rebuild something even more groundbreaking, a project truly dedicated to advancing knowledge, but this time, we'd do it without having to carry people who saw science as just a means to personal fame. Over the next year, the newly reformed Cognitive Synthesis Project, under the leadership of a new, ethical principal investigator and with my continued involvement, thrived. Our research continued to push boundaries, earning new grants and genuine respect. Dr. Thorne and Dr. Vance were stripped of their academic titles and banned from research institutions, their names forever synonymous with academic fraud. We see each other only through grim news headlines of their downfall, a polite distance that masks the wounds that may never fully heal. Sometimes, late at night, I look at old photos of Dr. Thorne and me from the early days of the project and feel a twinge of sadness for the shared scientific dream we once had. But then I remember that press conference, the look of disdain on Dr. Thorne's face, the way he dismissed my intellectual contributions. In science, and in life, true genius is earned through honest discovery, not stolen glory. He learned that lesson too late. As for me, I learned that sometimes, the quiet ones, the ones meticulously crafting the unseen foundations, are the ones you should watch out for. Because we're the ones who know how to build a case, how to uncover the hidden truths in data, and how to bring down even the most celebrated figures when they betray the pursuit of knowledge. My story spread through the academic world, a cautionary tale about underestimating the wrong person. These days, when I attend conferences, I often catch whispers, "That's Alina, the one who," they never finish the sentence, but they don't have to. The continued breakthroughs and the unwavering integrity of our research speak for themselves. Last week, I received an invitation to speak at the prestigious World Science Forum on Ethical AI and Research Integrity. The topic? The algorithms of truth, when data speaks louder than titles. I accepted the invitation with a small smile, already planning my speech. After all, I have quite a story to tell. The project continues to thrive under its renewed commitment to honesty and collaboration, but more importantly, I've found peace with my decisions. Sometimes, the strongest message you can send is simply proving people wrong. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about rising so high that they can't help but see their own mistakes and the damage they caused. As I write this from my newly designated lead researcher office, overseeing the next generation of algorithms, I'm reminded of something. Dr. Sharma once told me, "The truth, like good data, always reveals itself in the end." She was right. I've moved past the need for revenge now. These days, I focus on building something truly meaningful, something that will outlast all the petty ego and self-serving ambition. I still keep a small, framed printout of the very first, complex algorithm I designed for the project, a reminder of why I started and why I will never stop fighting for what's right. Until then, it serves as a reminder that our greatest strengths often come from the very things others underestimate about us.